I think, I mean, just the fear, just fear that something like that would actually exist. And, we're supposed to trust the government, and for the government to be involved in that, or, Hollywood elites that are making wonderful videos, children videos, even, you know what I mean? Like, these kind of people that I would never suspect to be a part of something so heinous. It was shocking and it was scary. And so I was like, if they can do this and get away with it, I need to know all about it, because I need to know how I can keep my family safe.
Welcome to the follow-up question. I'm your host, Michael Ashford. I'm on a mission with this show to help us find common ground, because that's really hard to do right now. But my aim with this show is to bring you fresh perspectives, different experiences, and insightful stories with the hope that we all come together a little bit more, that we all find common ground and realize that we're not so different after all. On this show, I hope to teach you to listen more than you speak and to ask more questions before feeling the pressure to always be an active participant in situations where perhaps we just need to be an observer. I know there are a ton of other interview shows out there, but this show is the only one that aims to help you connect better with the other human beings in your life, strangers, people that you love, who perhaps have different ideas from you. My guest this week is Ashley Vanderbilt. I first came across Ashley's story in a CNN article that explained how she got out of the conspiracy group QAnon, how she began to question those thoughts after President Joe Biden was elected and inaugurated. Now, I'm a former journalist, so immediately upon watching this video of Ashley, I got to work trying to connect with her. And connect with her I did. And what you're about to hear is our conversation. I wanted to explore with Ashley the deeper reason why. The CNN piece, which I've linked in the show notes, so go check that out. It talked about how she got out and why she made the decision, but I wanted to explore how she got in. What attracted her? What was the message that initially said, this resonates with me? And in this conversation, you will hear some fascinating stuff. We go deep. I try to get to the root cause, and you're going to hear Ashley, I think, for the first time ever, publicly voice why this message resonated. And it's powerful. Now, as a little bit of background, I want to direct you to the Jordan Harbinger show. Jordan was a guest on this show in the early episodes, but last week on his show, he released an episode talking about QAnon, what it is, to give you better perspective and background on actually how it got its start and what it is and what that conspiracy group believes. Go listen to that as well. And then stay tuned after this conversation with Ashley, where I give you some final thoughts. Before I intro Ashley and we get into the conversation, one quick note, please sign up for the follow-up. It's my newsletter that drops every Friday, where I highlight and touch on and go deep on a key theme or topic from this week's episode. And this one's going to be really, really powerful, just like this conversation. So let's get into it. Here's my conversation with Ashley Vanderbilt. What has life been like for you in the days since that CNN piece came out?
It has been chaos, for lack of better words. It's really overwhelming. I've obviously having a lot of media outlets reach out to me from that. And then obviously my TikTok following has really increased. And there's been a little bit of backlash, but for the most part, it's been really supportive and encouraging. And I'm really grateful for that.
The backlash that you just mentioned, where is that coming from? What's the source of that?
Well, at first, I think almost all of the backlash was coming from the left. There's people that's been hurt by everything that Trump's administration and QAnon And all of those people, I guess me, when I was in it, have caused. And so there's a lot of hurt and frustration and resentment to that. And I'm speaking out on it. So I'm an easy target. I am starting to get backlash on the Q and Trump supporter sides now. Rumor has it that I am a liberal paid actor, and I'm not a very good actor. I'm also not paid, so I'm waiting for that check then, if that's true of what they're saying. I've had Trump supporters say that they're not in Q, and that I'm giving all Republicans and Trump supporters a bad look. So there's hurt feelings, I guess, across the board.
Yeah. Ashley, how does that make you feel, being in the middle of all that?
I'm getting better with it. At first, I'm a sensitive person, and, I didn't even know that I was in QAnon. I didn't know. I was just so oblivious to everything. So I really feel like I didn't know anything. But so the hurtful things that have come back and, to me, and things that have been said, it hurt my feelings. And sometimes I wondered if I could even continue doing this, because it was just, I was like, I'm just not strong enough for this. Like I get such hurt feelings. Like I don't have thick enough skin. This could have been a bad idea. And then I don't know, I got over it, I guess, and just try to remind myself a lot when I'm getting these negative comments. I'm like, I can go through a post of mine that has 400 comments on it. 20 of them are horrible, but the rest are all really good. And so I really just try to not let myself give the negativity so much weight. Yeah. The backlash that I'm getting now from the Q and the Trump side, I'm starting to get a little bit worried. I've had today, someone commented on one of my videos and they said I'm in danger. So I don't know what that means. And I'm like, this is not sounding good.
Can you take me back to, I guess you said you weren't even really aware that you were involved in this and wrapped up in Q. How were you first introduced to these ideas? How did this first come into your realm of consciousness?
So for me, I've never been a political person my whole life. And my family growing up always told me that we're Republicans. I have a great family. They're just really good people. And so obviously I want to be like my family. Again, with no interest in politics, no interest in researching anything. I just always, when I could start voting, I just voted red. It didn't matter who the candidate was. It just, they were Republican, they got my vote. So then 2016, I didn't vote at all. But that was just like circumstances. I moved from a different state and it was too late to get an absentee ballot and it was too late to register. So I didn't vote at all. Come this last year's election, again, being clueless to everything. I just was liking Trump videos on TikTok, and the algorithm must have started picking up, more pro-Trump things. And in TikTok, you will see conspiracy theories and misinformation. And I know TikTok says they've gone on the record with CNN and saying that they don't allow it, but I still see misinformation going around on there. So it is on there. And what drew me in the most was when they started talking about these child rings. Like, I'm a mom. I have a 4-year-old. I know child trafficking and sex trafficking is real. It's a real problem in the country. And where we live, we're in a big city and we're on the coast. So I'm extra careful with her because I'm like, someone could just take her and put her on a boat and I'd never see her. So when I started hearing things about these child rings, I started listening and I started asking, people that I knew were Trump supporters and might know something about it. And that's kind of how I got more into it. Again, not even knowing it was conspiracy stuff, not even knowing it was QAnon.
So these I guess posts that you were seeing, these videos that you were watching, you talked about they were resonating with you because they hit a core issue for you, which was motherhood. When you back out a little bit, I guess, and now seeing what you now see, what were they offering you? What were you getting behind in their messaging that was causing you to go deeper and deeper with these videos, with these conspiracy theories, as you've called them? What was it that was driving you further and further into it?
I think, just the fear, just fear that something like that would actually exist. And, we're supposed to trust the government, and for the government to be involved in that, or, Hollywood elites that are making wonderful videos, children videos, even, you know what I mean? Like these kind of people that I would never suspect to be a part of something so heinous. It was shocking and it was scary. And so I was like, if they can do this and get away with it, I need to know all about it because I need to know how I can keep my family safe.
Yeah.
It was very real to me at the time.
Did doubt ever creep in, or did you ever say, okay, well, why haven't I heard of this before? Were there any questions that you were asking during that time?
I guess not really. And I'm not trying to make excuses for myself, but I don't know if like this whole COVID isolation that we've been in for over a year had anything to do with it, where I'm not socializing with people. I'm not getting out in the real world. I'm seeing the same four walls every day, losing touch with reality in a way. I'm depressed. And the most socialization I get is with people online teaching me these things. And I've seen The Blacklist on Netflix a million times. And The Blacklist has a lot of corruption in the government. So I'm like, that could be true. Like maybe they got the idea for the show based off of the corruption that could be in our government. Like it just seemed like it just made sense.
Where did it lead to? So you start watching these videos, you start agreeing with these videos. Did it escalate any further? Were you beginning to post stuff? Just where did it go from the point where you began to be introduced to these stories?
Yeah, I ended up, joining. It's not even a Facebook group. It's a Facebook page. So you're not joining a group, but you just go to this page. And I would watch lives every night of the week. I joined Telegram chats, to keep getting information, to stay on top of everything and know what's going on. I did start to post things, but not a lot. I've made a couple posts on TikTok, which I've kept all the videos because I keep receipts in case anyone wants to check on those, where there was some crazy ideas spinning around. And I did that on TikTok because I know I wouldn't get as many views or attention that I would on Facebook. I've never been a person that really got a whole lot of followers and attention and all of that. So it was a safe place to put what I was feeling out there, without a whole lot of people seeing. Because I guess I kept this to myself for the most part. I didn't talk about the fear that I had. And it wasn't until right before the inauguration that I started. I think I had made 2 posts on Facebook and I looked like a crazy person doing it. So that's as far as that went.
Yeah. What's the sense, or what's the response within that community that you saw whenever they would be presented with, show the evidence, or whenever the beliefs of Q were challenged? What's the response in that community? What's that look like from the inside whenever there's a challenge to that belief?
Yeah, I guess when, like when I went on Facebook and I had made a post and I got, some negative feedback, people are like, that's not true. That's not true. Um, it was frustrating. It was just because like, it was so real to me and it was such a huge fear. And, I worried for myself and my family. I worried for my friends. I worried for the country. I worried for everyone. And so I felt like I was reaching out to help let everyone else be aware. I wanted them to know what I knew because I wanted them to be, I guess I didn't want them to be as scared, but I wanted them to be aware. I wanted them to be able to protect themselves and to know what was going on. Because I thought when crap hits the fan, everyone that doesn't know about this is going to be blindsided. And I wanted to stop that. So a lot of the retaliation, I guess, or the fighting coming from like my side was just frustration that they did not know what I was talking about.
Yeah. Joe Biden wins the election. We go through, of course, court challenges and fraud allegations and everything that we saw at the end of last year and leading into January. What's going through your mind at that time? Do you still believe that Trump will still be president at the end of the day?
During that time?
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, obviously once the inauguration ended and the screen on my TV didn't go black and I didn't hear an emergency broadcast, I was like, okay, something's wrong. What's happening now? I was scared to death. I was like, oh my gosh, like Trump didn't come through like he was supposed to. Now we're all in danger. We're all going to die. I need to take my daughter out of school because they're going to take her. And I was just like in that fight or flight mode. Like I was ready to go. I just needed to go hide. And I was shocked that the TVs didn't go black. I couldn't stop crying.
What was going through your head at that? I mean, you kind of talked about it right then, but you're sitting there watching TV. Are you just waiting in anticipation for the screen to go black?
Yeah, I mean, I had been waiting for days before that. They had been saying for, I don't know, maybe a week, but that could be stretching it. It was definitely days, though, before the inauguration that they had said, we're going to have a blackout. It's going to come. It was supposed to come before the inauguration. And so every day I was kind of on edge anyways. I was just kind of waiting. I always had my phone near. I had the volume turned way up. I mean, I was just like, I am not going to miss this emergency thing. And when it didn't happen leading up to the inauguration day, I didn't sleep going into that night. I was just like, it's going to happen. It could happen before the inauguration airs. I mean, I had no idea. And then when it was going and happening, and as soon as Joe Biden was getting sworn in, the tears just kept coming because I was like, oh crap, like this is not good. And hopefully that answered your question.
Yeah, it did. So Ashley, where do you go from there? You're scared. You're talking about pulling your daughter out of school, and I believe you said running and hiding. What's the process like? How do you come down from that?
I called my mom. I FaceTimed her. And I was a crying mess, scared to death. And I was just like, the country's dead. I was like, we're seeing the funeral. China is going to take over. I got to take Emmy out of school because the schools are going to take her. They're going to put her in a hospital and they're going to mandate, like they're going to hold her down and give her a vaccine if they think she's even sick. And my kid has allergies. So she doesn't run a fever, but she's got allergies. So they could think she's sick and they'll take her away. And I couldn't do anything about it. So I'm panicking on the phone to my mom and crying. And she was at the front desk that day. And because I'm on FaceTime and everybody can hear me, she went into a closet, a dark closet, and shut herself in there. And she just kept talking to me and she's like, it's okay. You're safe. We're not going to be taken over by China. God knows what's happening. Like he's never wrong. He doesn't make mistakes. So obviously it was in his plans to make Joe Biden president. So, you're fine. Take a deep breath. And she said, she was like, look at Obama. They thought Obama was the Antichrist. And she said, and that wasn't true. So she's like, does that make you feel better? And I was like, no, it doesn't. It doesn't fix it. And so I got off the phone with her. She sent me a text and she said, do not call any school. Probably because she didn't want the school to think like there was a nutcase out here that didn't need to have her kid, I guess. But so I didn't call the school, and it took me a couple hours and I calmed down. I finally, I was able to stop crying, and I just thought about it and I said, okay, I know I'm almost 30, but I still need my mom. And if my mom tells me that I'm okay and that I'm safe, I'm going to trust that. And then I was able to start, I guess, thinking rationally, and having a clear head.
Your parents roll through this. I mean, you just talked about your mom's response and talking you down. Had you shared your beliefs or thoughts with your parents, your mom, prior to that phone call?
A little bit. I definitely, for a week or two before the inauguration, I started sending them the videos that I was watching on Facebook and stuff. And I'd send it to them in Messenger. And her and my dad both never answered me. They never responded back. So I was like, well, maybe they're watching it. Maybe they're not. I'm doing what I can do so they know what's happening. But they never had a conversation with me. They never were like, Ashley, this is so far out there. My guess is they didn't watch them at all. But yeah, I never got a response out of anything.
I guess now that you've kind of begun to move past it, and I do want to talk about that process of thinking clearly, but I'm interested, Ashley, what do you say to somebody who would listen to your story and say, how in the world could you possibly believe that? The people who are just incredulous and saying, what in the world was she thinking? What would be your response to them?
It's easy to get in it. I've heard of conspiracy theories and stuff my whole life. And I've always thought like, those people are crazy. I don't know how they can believe that stuff. I mean, that's insane. And so I never wanted to be one of those people. So for me, and I guess it's scary in a way how easy it is to get in it. Like we have the president at the time telling us for years and years, the media lies. It's all fake news. You can't trust it. Well, they tell you things like when you're in therapy, they'll tell you if you say things over and over enough times, you're going to give it life. Okay, so how many times did we hear from him that the news you can't trust? You can't watch any of that. So, it gave what he said with that, it gave that life. So I felt like I couldn't, if I was told something that was off, I couldn't go research it because all I'm going to get is lies. And it's not like someone came to me and gave me the most wild idea in the group. And I was like, yes, I believe that, like, I am on board. It isn't like that. They just say something so small and you're like, well, why? Or, you just have a question about it. So then they give you more information and more information. And so you go from something about children are being trafficked all the way to Hollywood elites are torturing and drinking the blood of these children. But it's a process to get there. And there's, so it's a snowball and it just keeps building up. So it all makes sense. And typically when you're learning this information, it's from somebody that you trust. So I had, a person that I was close to tell me all of this. Well, if your parents are going to tell you, your parents could say it's raining outside. 9 times out of 10, you're going to believe your parents that it's raining outside. You trust your parents. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you don't have to go check. So if you're having someone that you trust and that is credible to you telling you this information, why would you think that they're lying to you? And I guess that's how it's so tricky, and you get pulled in. And on top of that, I never knew I was in QAnon. I never knew that the information that was coming was QAnon derived. No clue at all. And like, I've been asked, well, how do you feel now that you're out, knowing that you were a part of that? Well, yeah, I feel like garbage. I mean, I hate that I was a part of that. And it's a domestic terrorist group. Like, never have I woken up one morning and being like, I would like to be part of a terrorist group. That would make my day. Like, that was never a mindset. So it is really easy to get into that stuff and not even know it.
Ashley, you mentioned earlier fear, and you talked about the isolation that we're experiencing right now as people, and really we only have the internet to interact with the world around us. Have you thought about it all, or can you pinpoint what you were searching for in all of that? Where was the fear from? What were you seeking as you sought out that information? Have you given any thought to that?
I guess I don't know what I was seeking. I know the base of my fear, and it's always been this way. It's always been since I can remember, from when I was little. I have been terrified of death forever. I've always went to church, and I've been always scared that, obviously, I believe, when you die, you could go to heaven or not. There's a 50-50 chance. And I have always, feared that I'm not going to be good enough to go to heaven. Like, I've lived a life full of a lot of mistakes. And, my family all tells me, you're going to go to heaven. You believe Jesus died. You believe he rose again. Like, you believe all these things. You're going to go to heaven. But I'm like, it just can't be that easy. It can't be that simple. Like, I feel like I'm not worthy of that. So I am terrified to die and what happens to me when I'm dead. And even worse, even the best Christians that have, doubts sometimes, what if we're wrong? You know what I mean? On the very small chance that, this whole Christian thing isn't even real, and then we die, then we're just gone forever. Like, that's it. There's no more anything, and it's so permanent, and it freaks me out. And so when they're talking about China taking over in these groups, and they're talking about Christians being killed, like, all I see is death is coming, and I am terrified, and I don't know what to do. And I even prayed all the time, and I was like, God, I'll die for you, but I don't want to. Like, please don't make me. I mean, I just want to be here as long as I can. And so that was definitely, I guess, my motivation with the fear that just kept me in it, because I feel like I'd do anything that it took to not die.
Yeah. And so would it be appropriate to say you felt like you were doing your part in staving off death for other people, including yourself? That the community of Q made you feel like you were doing something to ward off death, either these children or Christians or yourself? Is that appropriate to say?
Yeah, I guess so. That would make sense. I felt like, again, I mean, I wasn't super vocal about the crazy beliefs that I had throughout it. So I don't think I was doing a huge service to anybody else, really. But yeah, the thought in that group was, and it was they integrated religion into there a lot. And, putting that Donald Trump was sent here by God. And you get this feeling like, well, if you don't believe that, then are you not that good of a Christian? Like, now are you doubting God? So that's not good either. So I feel like I just wanted to know everything that I could. To be prepared, I guess. I wanted to be prepared, and I wanted to eventually, if I would have gotten brave enough to, start being the crazy person on the side of the street holding signs and being like, we're doomed and you better pack your bags or something, like, I don't know.
Ashley, how do you begin to come back? Like, what are the questions or what are the things that are going through your mind as you begin to sort through this and begin to realize the scope of everything that you've talked about up to this? What was your process to begin to work through that?
I mean, part of it, I think, it was a God thing for sure. I mean, like I had said, I'd been praying even before the inauguration and begging God to just let me know what the truth was. Like, I just want to know whatever it is that's true. Please make that clear to me, make it clear to the country, to the world, so we just know what's going on. Because I still, obviously at the time felt like I couldn't trust the news. I couldn't trust Google searches. I mean, I couldn't trust anything. So the only trust I got is any kind of sign I'm going to get from God. And from that point, even leading up to the inauguration, there were times where I was just like, could we be wrong? Like, maybe we're not right on this. And if we're not right, like, are we crazy? So I had a little bit of doubt before the inauguration. Very little doubt, I guess I'd say, because still I was really convinced that we were right. And then after the inauguration, and I went back into the groups. I think I had already made my initial TikTok saying that we were wrong, but I still went back into the groups to look at what they were saying. He was going live and talking. So I was like, all right, what do we do now? Like, we were wrong. What am I supposed to expect? And he started talking about March 4th and how President Trump is going to come back and Joe Biden is not really the president and all of this. And my fiance was like, stop watching those videos. And I was like, I know, like, I'm not really going to believe it. I just want to know, like, what they're saying, because, like, maybe it could be true. But when I got off of there, I just kept thinking, and I'm just like, it's just not making sense. It's not adding up. Like, how can somebody be sworn in? How can all of this be going on? And then all of a sudden Trump is back. I was like, it doesn't make sense. That's as far as I really got in it, really. I mean, as far as like thinking clearly, I had made my TikTok posts. When someone had commented on one of them, I responded back by a video because I can say more in 60 seconds than I can type in the limited character amount that you can type. Didn't expect anyone to see anything again. So it was no big deal to me. But it went viral. And then I was getting more and more questions. And I really think that the questions forced me to self-reflect and to think about things. And I'm learning what the truth was. And so the followers and the questions and everything that I was getting on TikTok was a huge part of this.
What is something that you've learned through all this? What have you learned about yourself through all this?
Well, I learned that I need to research. I learned that I've got trust issues now. And if you tell me anything, I'm going to look it up to make sure it's real. But I think the biggest takeaway is, like, I learned that Trump is just not, he's not who at least the groups portray him to be. He doesn't care. He doesn't care about any of us. He doesn't care about what happens to the country. I don't know what it was for him, if it was an ego thing or if it was a money thing or what it was, but I don't think he had real intentions on making anything better. Things have gotten a whole lot worse. So that's been a huge eye-opener. It's just I put him on a huge pedestal that he never deserved to be on. and I'm learning all of this.
Ashley, do you still consider yourself a Republican?
I don't know. Sometimes I feel like I have a responsibility to be one anyways because of my family. I also think like I probably am more of an independent and I could vote either way. Now after, I will do my research on candidates and figure out who, aligns with me and my beliefs. But I can tell you one thing, if the GOP can't figure out their stuff now, I will never, ever, 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 ever consider being a Republican because they are not doing the right thing at all.
Strong words, Ashley, strong words. What do you want people to know? Like, what do you hope people know and learn and understand from your story?
I think first and foremost, I want people to know that this QAnon cult is far bigger, I think, than anyone can really imagine. I think, there's people that are in Q groups. There's people that is carrying around big cardboard Qs and stuff, and they know, and they're supporting it all the way. But I think there's a bigger majority of people that are hearing this misinformation that's derived from Q, and they're believing it, which in turn is they're in Q. They just don't know it. Secondly, I would really want people to know that whether they have friends or families or, their relationships have been affected by people in Q, to never go after them like in a way that you're going to argue with them or call them names or, anything like that, anything that's going to be in a negative tone. And I'm not saying that you need to coddle them and not encourage them. You would be enabling. Like, you don't need to enable them, but the negativity that would come to them, they're going to dig their heels in more. They're going to believe what they think is their truth more. So their ears will just be turned off. They will not hear anything you've got to say. I would suggest trying to have empathy for them and realize that I would say a lot of people in there, if not the majority of the people in there, are being as crazy as they're being because they're scared out of their mind. And if you could just have a little bit of compassion and have open communication with them without making them feel like they're crazy or wrong or anything, see why they believe what they believe. See if an opportunity ever presents itself for you to be like, hey, Associated Press is non-biased and it is facts and it isn't lies and it's not going to sway you one way or the other. Here's this article or something. Like, if the opportunity presents itself, to just be there and, be a soft place to land for these people, because reality hits hard when you get out. I think that's really important. Those are probably the two biggest things.
Ashley, last question for you here. Is there something you wish you were asked more? Or what's a question you wish you were asked now, knowing what you know and having gone through what you've gone through?
Well, I mean, as we're speaking like up to this day, because I am getting a lot of interviews, I will be interested and excited to see if my interviews take a turn as far as I want to be asked on what do I think of the impeachment trials? Like, what do I think needs to happen to President Trump? And what do I think of the GOP and all of this? Because I think it's important. I think Trump being convicted is important and it needs to happen. And I think the GOP needs to get a backbone and start doing the right thing, because if they don't do the right thing, QAnon will never die. QAnon will never end, and there is a lot of violence that is in the future. I mean, I think it could get worse than the insurrection. And that's just from conversations that I've seen and that I've heard from these groups. So I just wish that people in government and everything would take the information that I'm getting and take it seriously.
I got to ask one more follow-up to that. You mentioned several times, the GOP needs to get it together. You just said right there, the GOP needs to grow a backbone. What does that look like for you? What steps would you like to see the GOP, the Republican Party, take to defend against this?
I mean, for starters, convicting Trump would be one thing. I mean, there's not many Republicans. There's 6 that's voting yes. You should have all of them voting yes. I mean, what happened on that night was wrong. Trump absolutely incited it. And that's coming from me, who thought he had nothing to do with it at the time when I was in the group. I was like, no, that wasn't him. And I'm seeing that, yeah, he absolutely did. Do the right thing. Call it for what it is. Hold people accountable for making mistakes like this. Like, something like that should have never happened. People like Marjorie Taylor Greene, she shouldn't have a job. Anybody in government, whether, Republican or Democrat, but obviously this issue is with the Republicans, they shouldn't have a job when they have any QAnon ideals or anything. And I'm not saying that people can't change, because they can. I mean, I'm not in QAnon, and I'd like to think I'm a good person. I think I could hold a government office job, I feel like I would have a clear head on it. But I've seen her speech. It didn't sound real genuine. It didn't sound like she doesn't believe in QAnon. And all that is doing is encouraging people in QAnon that there is some truth to it. And it'll never end.
It's a great place to leave it, Ashley. Thank you so much for your time. Like we talked in the beginning, I know you're busy and you've got a lot of people coming at you, but best wishes to you and your family. And thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you.
2 huge, important takeaways from everything Ashley just said. 1, there is something there that is rooted in fear when someone chooses to believe a conspiracy theory. When someone chooses to go against facts and logic and reason, there is a deeper emotional element there that facts and logic and reason cannot penetrate. So getting to the emotional baseline is how you begin to pull yourself or pull someone else out of something like the QAnon conspiracy theory. Secondly, we have to resist the temptation to call them names, to call them crazy, to call them any other pejorative or derogatory name. You have to resist that, because at the end of the day, these are human beings. Ashley is a human being, a mother who was scared. And do you honestly think, her words, do you honestly think calling them names and shouting at them is going to change their mind? Calling them names on Twitter, commenting on articles like the CNN article about how awful they are. Do you think that's going to change anyone's mind? Isn't that our goal, to get them out, to change their mind, to help them see what we know to be true? What actually is true? And understand this, you only have the ability to speak into someone's life with truth and get to the emotional foundation of their issues after you've built rapport, after you've built trust. That's why Ashley's mother was able to get through to her. So many thanks to Ashley for coming on and sharing her story on the show this week. Please do me and Ashley a huge favor. Share this episode with someone you know who might also find some value in listening to today's conversation. Share this episode with your network. Help spread the good word about the importance of asking more questions, about finding common ground, about building rapport and trust. And if you like the conversations with the amazing guests like Ashley that I have on each week, be sure to subscribe so that you never miss an episode. If you ever want to get in touch with me, you can always email me. It's michael@thefollowupquestion.com, or you can go to thefollowupquestion.com and reach out there. I'll catch you on the next episode of The Follow-Up Question. And until then, keep asking questions.